and welcome, Moira Hanna. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me today, Hillary. I am thrilled to sit down and talk with you.
Well, before we press record, I just knew we were going to have a great time, and we've gotten to know each other over the last few years. But
Mhm.
this is the first time that I'm really getting to interview you. Usually, you're supporting me in
Yep.
your Entrepreneurs in Flow, and I'm
Mhm.
so grateful for that. I love that in this Women Supporting Women series, I get to highlight you. And I'm going to start out with because your business is Entrepreneurs in Flow,
Mhm.
let's just break it down. Some people say, well, I'm not an entrepreneur. So
Ooh.
let's keep it simple and say, hey, this is what it means for you.
Okay, so for me, being an entrepreneur just means that you are working to get something out into the world that is going to better someone else's life. And it might mean that it's small and it's just little tiny boutique kind of idea. It might mean that it's massive and you're getting out to millions of people or anywhere in between. It might mean that you're being paid. It might mean that you're doing this as a nonprofit kind of situation. It means that you're getting out there and you're providing service or products to people that will make their life better.
I love that because I think so often we discount what we do and we say, well, I'm not an entrepreneur if I'm not making money.
Oh,
I'm not an entrepreneur if I don't have customers. I'm not an entrepreneur unless someone has paid me for one thing. And I will say, my family said, Mom, you're not an entrepreneur. No one's paid you for anything yet at first. And once I got my first payment, they said, okay, now you're official.
okay, but if we're waiting for profit, then we're waiting 3 to 5 years. If you think about a brick and mortar, even an online business has a similar timeline to get to that profit standpoint. So what are you if you're not an entrepreneur? You're working toward that.
Well,
So
and I love
no,
that.
even
What
before you have your first client or customer or person that walks in your door, you are still an entrepreneur.
absolutely. And that's an encouragement for anyone out there who has an idea, who
Mhm.
has been working, and it feels like volunteer time. It is sweat equity that you're putting into this great purpose and mission and calling, whatever it is for that person, of that you are going to have a service or a product to make someone's life easier or better. Well,
Absolutely.
I was going to say, what would you add?
I think that a lot of it's mindset because there are going to be people in your life that say you're not an entrepreneur until that first Stripe payment comes through and it hits ding on your phone and you go, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You're an entrepreneur from the moment you decide that you're going to put something out into the world, even before it's created. I want everyone to start thinking of themselves as an entrepreneur because that's where you start to get that energy and that momentum to be able to actually follow through.
Absolutely. And even just saying it out loud of like, I'm an entrepreneur. I mean, I couldn't even do that the first 9 months that I was working. I mean, 40 to 60 hours a week on this business
Mhm.
that was not turning much profit. And I'll be honest, I'm like, oh, yeah, the first year, I think I made $2,000, but I invested like $9,000, right? In
Okay, yep. Yep.
trainings, equipment, processes, getting support, training, coaches. And I think it's important to be honest with people, but it was a good tax break. So I don't want people to be afraid.
Right. Absolutely. My accountant always looks at that and says, "Oh, I see you invested in yourself this year."
Huge mindset piece for
Mhm.
people because it's like, well, who am I going to spend money? Who am I going to hire? I don't
Yes.
want to invest that much. And I wonder, I'm curious on that point.
Mhm.
When people are like, I need to go to the high ticket item first, what would be your response?
Oh, so I've done that. And I've done it both ways. When I first got started, I was really struggling with my messaging. And so I went all in on a program and I said, I'm going to get the higher tier offer because it has more support. It's going to be great. And I tried really hard and it did not go well because I wasn't at a place in my business where I could really put all of the pieces together. And so what's interesting is I kind of didn't use it, and I lost out on that investment in a way, but it also taught me that I wasn't ready. So I was a little more careful the next time I had the option to go high ticket or more moderate ticket in what I was investing in. And I went moderate. And
Well,
now I'm going back to that first program, and it makes so much more sense. And I'm realizing it should have been, I should have waited to invest in the high part of it until I really had all of this stuff figured out about my business.
exactly. And we're always learning, right? Failure, first attempt in learning.
Yeah.
So some of us fail, as long as you're failing forward and you're learning, it's like, well, this taught me so much. And if you have a lifetime access to some of the
Mhm.
programs that we've invested in, you can go back and be like, oh,
Yes.
this is so much easier now. I think giving ourselves some grace with the time it takes to
Mhm.
get clear on messaging, even if you have a messaging coach,
Right.
or like you, certified story brand coach,
Mhm.
it's like, well, if I don't really know, and I kind of, we have to all give ourselves that grace to go through those growing pains and those learning points. Mm.
And the fact of the matter is your business is going to change with time. Your vision for your business changes. So if you beat yourself up now about an investment that didn't work the way you thought it would, it's just not the right time. And you can go back and relook at that when you are further along in your process and in your journey.
You are such an encouragement, not just to me, but hopefully to the listeners and the viewers if they catch this over on YouTube, because we can so often beat ourselves up of, well, I didn't make the right decision, or I don't know how to ask for help. And because this is momentum in midlife, and we're trying to talk to women who are over 40 and 50 and 60, and our mean girl mindset is so strong in there. One of the reasons I sought you out, Maura, is, and actually I'll tell how first.
Okay.
You and I were in a learn how to create a membership program,
Mhm.
and I felt like I was drowning, and I was having one of those pity party days. I'm like,
Mm.
I am overwhelmed. I just have a question. And you put a message in the chat of, would you like to hop on a call? I'm like, yes, I would. Of course I would. And it was just kind of holding that space. And
Mhm.
you are so multi-passionate, multi-skilled, multi-hyphenate, and we'll get to that in a minute, of all the things you can do. So I want to share with listeners who are considering themselves entrepreneurs, business owners
Mhm.
in flow, some specific strategies on how they can focus on what it is they want to do. And just that next one step. I think I still have the sticky note on my wall. One
Just
thing,
take one step.
one step.
Mhm. I'm so glad you asked that, because it's something that I'm finding coming up in conversations more and more, is that overwhelm and how do I know what to do? How do I know where to focus my business? And honestly, it goes back to your vision, which is rooted in your values. And so my very basic tip for everyone is to go figure out what your personal values are and what your professional values are. And there are so many amazing tools out there. You can look up values card sort on your favorite search engine, and you will find ones that you can print out. And there are 100 values printable, so you don't even have to come up with the word on your own of what you value. And you sort them into categories. Yes, this is really important to me. No, it's really not. And you sort them. But when you are clear on your values personally and professionally, then the decisions you make come back to, does this support my value system? Because if it doesn't, you're going to drag your feet. You're going to dread it. You are not going to want to get up in the morning out of bed and go walk into your office to do your work on your business. And people are going to tell, they'll know if you're doing something that's not in alignment with what you value, because it's not going to come across authentically.
Oh, that resonates so much with me, because there are times that I'm like, well, I've got to sound perfect. I've got to have this all together. I need to look like this and sound like this and have all of this. But especially as an adult woman with ADHD
Mhm.
over the age of 50, it's really hard sometimes to do all those things. And I was kind of missing out on that authentic connection opportunity
Yeah.
with listeners or getting too much in my head. And it's like, oh my goodness, I'm serving no one, right?
Yeah.
Well, I love that you're talking about values, both personal and professional. And then once we've got those, how do we stay on track with the business in order to continue to do that one step forward?
So my rule of thumb, a lot of people will say, take action, any action. I don't agree with that.
I
I don't
drop.
usually like to ruffle feathers, but this is one that I very much enjoy ruffling feathers on. It is not take action, any action. It is take action, meaningful action. And this is what happens. Whether you have ADHD, you have brain fog, you have lots of things on your plate, you are multi-passionate, whatever it is, whatever labels you're applying to yourself, kindly or unkindly, I want you to think about what is actually going to help you move forward. Here's the key. A lot of times it's not what you go, oh, I should go do this. Because you're choosing the thing that's easy. I was recently trying to get all of my own podcast episodes uploaded to YouTube, which meant converting them all and, renaming them and writing better descriptions for SEO. And I was doing that instead of doing the real work that was going to help me get more clients and get me more reach. Because yes, being on YouTube is important. However, it was not the thing that was going to move the needle. It was not meaningful action in that moment.
Moving the needle gives I think of kind of the gas tank going up and down, something that's going to make a difference to get you forward instead of just doing things, right?
Yeah. We all have to-do lists. We all have endless to-do lists. But the trick is to make sure that you are saying, here are the top 3 things that will make a difference in what I'm focusing on in my business right now. If that is getting more clients, what top 3 things can you do to get more clients? And chances are it's going to be being more active in groups that you're in so that people see your name. It's going to be finding the right conversations to have, getting on one-on-one calls. So much in our society says you have to scale. And the reality is we want to be human. We need human connection. So get on those calls.
That's such
Look for that
encouragement
stuff.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No. Just look for those moments. The things that are actually going to make a difference, not all the squirrel moments, the shiny things that everyone says you should do. Don't should. Do the stuff that's going to make a difference.
Just even that was a good call to action just for me of show up in the groups, be active, provide value. I think you've said before, input of reach out to connect with someone. I think so many people get worried about how am I going to make it big? It's like, let's just work on serving 10 people well. There's a goal, because once you can serve 10 people well, then you can serve 100 well. But with all the distractions and all the scroll moments, for sure. And
if you just want to serve 10 people, that's okay.
That's right.
That's
right.
okay.
It's okay to not want to be a social media influencer or to be in everyone's feed, or it's okay to be yourself and do what you do well to serve those people that you're serving. And your ideas might change. Oh, that was super helpful. Well, I want to shift just a little bit because, as I said, you are multi-talented. And even though I know you, I got a little bit nervous and excited to interview you because you are a professional in so many different lanes. And I want to get it right. Are you a psychologist?
No.
Okay.
So my PhD is in psychology, but I am not that kind of psychology.
Okay.
So my background's in industrial organizational psychology, which is the workplace psychology.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked. Very cool. So the question kind of goes, as an organizational psychologist, how do you balance your work as a professor, homeschooling, coaching clients, all your personal and professional learning and growth opportunities, and growing this podcast that you're doing, which is just so great.
Honestly, I work during my peak times. So I figure out, and that's different for everyone. And I've got a client right now. She knows her cap is 1 p.m. in the afternoon. She does not do her best work after 1 p.m. That's it. And so she schedules all of her kind of menial tasks, and she'll go do her car oil change and all of that stuff after 1 p.m. But she'll do the hard work at 8 a.m. I'm up 3 times a week at 6 a.m. for a co-working session because I roll out of bed ready to go. That's one of my peak times, 6 a.m. in the morning. I don't even eat breakfast first. I literally roll out of bed at 5:50. The people I co-work with all show up in our pajamas. We have our hair still piled up. Most of us still have our glasses on, not our contacts in. There's no makeup. There's no nothing. We just show up and we work. And so find that time of day that you do your best work. It also means that no one in my house needs me at 6 a.m.
You are very available to yourself and your business at that time, right?
Yeah. And I love it. I get more done in the 90 minutes of that co-working session than I get done any other part of the day.
Okay. Because you're focused, committed, showing up, and not distracted by anyone else that you love, right?
Yes, I love them very much.
Yeah. Well,
but that also allows me to be present for homeschooling because I've put in 90 minutes of work before I ever sit down with my son and say, let's talk history. Let's do that experiment for science.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you're also pretty good with structuring and including boundaries, personal, professional, parenting, homeschool. Is there a certain tip or a couple tips you would have for parents who are in some ways doing it all, but you're not spreading yourself so thin?
I think my biggest tip is to know, especially if you're an entrepreneur parent, know when you want to work and when you don't want to work and be okay with saying no. And you do not get there overnight. In fact, this week I had to tell someone who requested a call on a Sunday because that's when they were available. I said, I don't work on Sundays. I'm sorry. I don't take calls I do work, but I don't take calls on Sunday.
Yeah.
If I'm working, it's for stuff that I want to get done. It's very much relaxed. I can walk in and out of my office if I get interrupted. It's just me, But I'll tell you, I sweated while I was typing that response of, I'm sorry, I don't take calls on Sunday. So even if you set up those boundaries and hold tight to them, it doesn't mean it's easy.
Right. It doesn't have to be easy, but it's also a way that you show respect to yourself and yourself as a person and an entrepreneur and your other roles as a parent or a spouse. And it's okay to not take calls on Sunday. And it's okay if that's your jam and you need to. And I try to just do, okay, which one Saturday a month am I recording podcasts, right? And instead of letting it bleed over of, oh, I need to accommodate everybody else's schedule, I cleared out Calendly and said, okay, here's the Saturday. And here's the dream I would like. I said, I can give you one alternative date, but I don't need people who are guests on my podcast to have access to me anytime. Yeah.
I love that you said that. I cleared out my Calendly too. My Wednesdays, my son has a cello lesson. And so that's an hour and we have a half hour either way. So we're talking about at least a 2-hour commitment. He likes to stop at the library afterward. And I have a call that I want to get on with a mentor when we get home. I don't have any calls on Wednesdays. I block that entire day because I don't want to rush. I don't want to be snippy with my family saying, well, I have to get home. I want to be on this call, nor do I want to miss the call that I love.
That goes back to kind of saying no to all of these things so you can say yes to your best things and to be your best self, to show up for your family, yourself, your mentor, and your business. Wow.
And talk to your family too. As a parent, get them on board. Find out what they're willing to do to support you, because I'll tell you, I have a 12-year-old. He goes, oh, you have a sales call, which means if I have a problem while you're on that, I need to go to dad. Yep. He just knows the difference of when he can walk into my office if I'm on a call and when he can't.
Yeah.
But being able to have those conversations, he's like, you can rock it, mom. Go do it. It's a whole different feeling when you sit down and talk with your family and get them on board and help them know what you need, because they are not mind readers.
Right. And in fact, there might be people in the world that claim that they can read minds. They might be reading micro facial expressions instead, but it's just being in touch with what do we need? What do they need? And what's a healthy boundary? And it's not all day. I used to spend 10 hours editing one podcast episode.
You know how I feel about that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. For the listeners who are just listening and don't see, it's like, oh, that was a disaster. That was not serving me. That was not serving them. And it was really highlighting of that, oh, I am really unhappy with some things I'm avoiding in my life, and I'm hiding out and calling it work and thinking it's productive, when it's like, oh, wait, how do I want to spend my time? How do I want to spend the valuable energy I have in my 24 hours in a day, and I'm not going to be working that long? Yeah. Oh, so good. So how do you explain, what do you tell people that you do?
I tell them that I help them get from idea to implementation, and I primarily work with course creators and coaches. So I'm helping them get their course idea out into the world, or their coaching program created and out into the world.
That's exciting and excellent. And you've trained with, I know so much of your backstory, and I know who you've trained under, and that you've invested with people who have successfully done these things, so you can help mentor us along and teach us and encourage us. And I found you to be such a great, you are a great listener, and you're able to pull the pieces together to kind of weave our individual tapestries as entrepreneurs, so that we can then have that confidence.
Thank you for that. That was very kind. Oh,
well, it's easy to be kind when I'm a big fan. So what would you say, though, Moira, that you're most proud of with how you've grown in your entrepreneurial journey?
not giving up.
Mm.
I'll be honest, the first year and a half, ooh, there were plenty of days when I looked at my husband and I said, I don't know about this. I don't know if it, because a lot of times when we start businesses, we're using our own funding, our own personal checking accounts to invest in our business. And I know a lot of people are in that situation, and I didn't want to become a burden on my family and our family finances. And it was just one of those moments. It was hard to keep going, but I just kept going back to what I valued and what the vision I had was. And when I looked at that, I realized, I'm an only child and I'm really stubborn. So giving up doesn't come easily. So that stubbornness kind of carried me through. And I'm at the point in my business where I genuinely feel joy. And I know that if I had given up, I wouldn't have gotten to this place of joy. And I just love it.
I just felt the big exhale of feeling your joy, because I think when I met you, you were pretty early on in your journey. And you were still able to encourage other people. But when we can kind of wear that cloak of joy, of giving out of that overflow and that abundance, and instead of stubborn, I would say that stick-to-itiveness, that perseverance, that, okay, I'm going to hold my ground. I'm going to state what I'm doing. I'm going to tweak and perfect.
Oh, it wasn't tweak. It was complete pivots. I've had so many pivots, and just be okay with it.
Oh, would you like to share a little bit about your pivots of your directions, just to illustrate for people? I don't know. It's up to you.
Yeah, I started off, I was leaving an organization where I was training coaches to be coaches and sit for board exams. And I recognized they didn't have a lot of support after they got certified. So I thought, oh, great, I'm going to support them. I'm going to help them keep growing their coaching skills, but I'm not really going to talk to them about business because it's not really my forte. But I'm going to stick with coaching skills. And then it quickly turned into, oh, they need business help. Okay, so I'm going to start talking to them about business. And then I realized that I was completely skipping over this skill that I had been honing for over 15 years in course creation. I have been in instructional design for over 15 years and I wasn't talking about it. It was like I'm hiding this thing that I don't even have to think about. I was hiding it for some reason. I don't know why. I felt like it was maybe a liability because at one point I had been told a PhD was a liability in getting a job because I would cost too much. So I started slowly hiding that stuff away that I had worked so hard for. And so just pivot. I got into that mindset. I was like, oh, wait, I can do this and I can help other people get their courses out with more simplicity, without the overwhelm. Be prepared to pivot. I now only serve a tiny group of entrepreneurs at a time.
Okay.
And I love it.
Wow.
And it's the most profitable I've ever been.
Fantastic. I think so often when I'm learning a skill and I'm training under someone, I think, well, they're already serving this population, so I can't compete with them, or I can't serve or teach similar things. And it's like, that is just not true. Your voice is unique. Your skill set is unique. Your experiences are unique. And absolutely, there can be more than 1 or 10 or 20 people teaching other people how to create their course, right? And it's not to minimize the people that we learn from.
No,
but there's
I
enough.
love those people. I love those people.
Love them too. Absolutely. So there's enough room. There's enough people to help. There's enough people to serve, for sure.
Yes.
Wow. I love learning about all of that. I'm trying to look at one of my notes here and I'm like, okay, creating flow. We've talked about that. And fast track. What did I write fast track about?
I will say, you brought up the word fast track. There is no true silver bullet or fast track. And I just want everyone to understand that. Is that what it was?
It was of that. Fast track is a myth. Someone who is advertising.
It's a myth.
That you are going to, like create and launch a course in 7 days. It's like, well, maybe if you've been working on it for a year.
Yes.
And you're bringing all the pieces together and you're just have that person is body doubling or co-working to get you there. But what would you say to someone who says, but this fast track, but they're promising this, I can do it?
Okay. So let's say someone promises that you're going to get 10 clients in the next 10 days because of their challenge. What they aren't telling you is that you already have to have a reach of so many thousand, that you have to be prepared to put in 60 hours, that you have to have all of these other things already in alignment for that to be true. That maybe you get 10 clients, but are they your ideal client that you actually love to work with?
Ooh, we got to pause there a second. Because there is a huge difference between getting 10 clients and 10 people you want to work with because they really align with your greatest gifts.
Yes. That is, as you're starting out as an entrepreneur, even as you're building, or if you're scaling, there's that temptation to say yes to everyone and it's a scarcity mindset. If I don't say yes, then what happens if no one else comes? And I want you to flip the script on this. If I say no to this person, it opens the time, the space, and the energy for someone else who is a better fit for both sides of the relationship to come into my life. If I've said yes to the person that's not a good fit, I'm no longer out there putting myself out there, finding the conversations, because I'm spending all of my time trying to make that client fit.
You're trying to put a square peg in a round hole.
Yes.
And yeah. Oh, wow. So we've really covered quite a bit. I'm going to see if I can summarize,
Okay.
but I don't know. This might be kind of tough. We're talking about how you really help entrepreneurs get into flow
Mhm.
and strategies on how to focus one step at a time, avoiding overwhelm, making sure that the vision is rooted in both personal and professional values, so that then you can apply whatever it is you're doing. Does it work with and support your own value system? You're helping us stay on track and taking not just any action, but very meaningful, purposeful to move the needle. And knowing that it might not be easy at first, and the easy stuff is not really what we're trying to do. We're trying to get that harder stuff. And to get more clients, but not just any client, but the right fit. Finding balance with our peak time of day that we work for our body, our mind, our family, and our purpose. And knowing that we might need to be willing to show up to co-work, be with other people that are moving forward, and clear out that Calendly schedule. People do not need to have access to you 24/7. They do not need to be able to text you. You do not need to respond to them any time of day. I think I just added that myself.
That's perfect. I agree.
And the myth of the fast track, I think we debunked that if you're willing to sacrifice your physical, mental, emotional health, maybe relationships, sure, you could get anything done. But the price you're going to pay on the backside. What would you like to add to any of that?
I think the one thing is take breaks along the way. Allow yourself, whether that's during the day and getting up and intentionally going to get a new glass of water, to go on a walk with the dog without AirPods in your ear, just allowing for the silence, because honestly, that's when your best ideas come. Mine come in the shower, but I know plenty of people get their best ideas on when they're walking the dog. And even if it's just standing up from your desk and stretching. So do those things daily, but then take purposeful time off from your business. As an entrepreneur, there's this tendency to say, I have to work all the time. There's no PTO as an entrepreneur, especially when you're starting out. But I know someone who, she has a program. It's very profitable. She goes, I work 3 weeks out of the month. The last week, I am not available to anyone. And she goes and she's with her family and she does all of the other stuff. And that's just the boundary. It goes back to boundaries, right? That she sets up for her business. So take breaks, find ways to take breaks.
That is so great, because I think the churn and the work and well, I'm not making any money unless I'm working. But I will agree 100% that I took 10 weeks off this summer to travel, to write, to reimagine. And I set 3 goals with you, in fact, I think, because I was in your coaching program. And I said, okay, when I come back, here's the date I'm setting. Here's what I'm hoping I will have achieved. And when I came back, I think we jumped on a quick call and you were like, wait, what? You did all those 3 things while you traveled 5 countries in 10 weeks? And I'm like, I know. I kind of surprised myself.
You were on track. I mean, you gave yourself space and grace to step back, but also to step into the things that you knew were going to take a lot of time. And so they didn't fit into your regular daily schedule.
Yeah.
You know, writing, that's a task. That's not something you can say, oh, I have 15 minutes right here. Let me just switch gears and shove this in and get in 800 words. You can't shift gears like that.
Right. It is kind of setting that time and space. And I didn't write every day while I was gone. In fact, I probably didn't write too much except journaling the first 8 weeks I was gone. And then suddenly it was like
massive download. Here
I
it
had
comes.
created so much space. And for me, writing the first book. So if anyone says, hey, I want to write a book, you need to know that it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just getting out the first draft, right? With anything, you're writing your first course like you're doing.
Mhm.
Just start and you'll refine. Oh my
And
goodness.
perfection doesn't exist. So just don't worry about it.
That's right. You might have, 10 edits to do on your whole thing. Well, we're talking about perfection. And so we'll close with kind of this fun final thought. If you see us over on YouTube, Maura and I have our hair like done and we look a little glam. And I at least generally show up to meetings with Maura with hair on top of my head at the end of the day.
Yep.
I am Mountain Time, you're East Coast.
Mhm.
And I'm usually not looking like my best and most energetic self. And so it was really fun that we both showed up and I was like, wow, you look amazing. And you said,
So I still have my yoga pants on.
ladies, listeners, you need to know you don't need to show up perfect. You don't need to have everything worked out in advance. Set healthy boundaries with yourself. Decide where you're going to put your time, your energy. And if you want to become a business owner or entrepreneur in flow and write that course, I want you to reach out to Moira Hanna. How can they find you, Maura?
They can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Entrepreneurs in Flow. You can also go to my website, entrepreneursinflow.co, not .com. Or they can check out my podcast, Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast.
The Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast, because you give practical tips and wisdom all the time. I think I need to figure out, okay, what's a playlist I could listen to? Because I think you're almost to 200 episodes if I last counted.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
You are, and it's that consistency. So, Maura, I just have loved talking to you. It's been great. Do you have a final thought or have we covered it all for today?
Be kind to yourself. Just be kind to yourself. This is a process, and I know people say that, but the more you hear it, the more likely you are to believe it. So the next time you're standing in front of your bathroom mirror, say, it's a process and I am an entrepreneur. I want you to just say those words out loud to yourself every single day.
It's a process. I'm an entrepreneur. I love it. Thanks so much, Maura. Until
You're
next
welcome.
time.
Thank you so much for having me, Hillary.